This is going to be part 2 to my first video, which surprisingly, I'm pretty sure it's the longest video I have on this channel. Over an hour and 30 minutes, where I'm going over the Quantum Astrology Human Origins textbook. And we're not completely finished yet, which is why I'm here to bring part 2. You notice in like most of my videos, maybe it's a Mercury and Pisces thing, we can't remember to finish stuff. Or is it a Taurus rising thing? Maybe, yeah, more of a Piscean thing. It's just you want to swim around and do multiple different things, and that's seeing what life has to offer. So, before we get started, please like, subscribe, comment, share if you dare, and care with peace and love. I really appreciate it. So, we left off on the nodal axes through the signs, our interference pairs, and as we can see, I decided to fill the categories in for us as output right here, and we have input, as well as our first half of an axis and the second half of an axis, which when we talk about the lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, we know that these nodes are going off of the two zodiacal signs, which are each other's output and input. Opposites attract in the zodiacal world. We have cardinal fire, which I'll just say CF because that's Aries, versus our air sign, which I'm pretty sure is Libra's cardinal air. Or is it? Yeah, cardinal air. So we know that Aries, as you can see in our first half of the axis, is individual, initiative, and autonomous action. All right. And Libra, as we see in our second half of the axis, is codependency and excessive diplomacy. So we see the negative side of Aries and the way Libra comes out in an Aries, possibly, or what it would look like for example, when someone has Rahu and Aries, Ketu and Libra, or Rahu and Libra, Ketu and Aries, and that's the 6th, 12th axis. Or it would be the 12th, 6. All right. Now we go down here and we see Taurus goes with Scorpio, Gemini goes with Sag, Cancer goes with Capricorn, Leo goes with Aquarius, Virgo goes with Pisces, Libra goes with Aries, and it reverses each other. So we'll see Scorpio, Taurus, Sag, Gemini, Capricorn, Cancer, Aquarius, Leo, as well as Pisces, Virgo. So Taurus, Scorpio, it's when we're even talking about not even just lunar nodes, but like, for example, I have Taurus rising. So Taurus ascendant. So the opposite of Scorpio is my descendant in Scorpio. So it's Taurus rising, Scorpio descending. We see Taurus is material stability and embodied presence, while Scorpio is compulsion, power dynamics, and intensity in the Taurus ascendant native. Of course, this all depends on other placements. We're talking about the sign, the nodal axes through the signs just in general, right? So Gemini is local curiosity, communicative versatility, all right? That's Rahu. But we can say that Ketu in Sagittarius is dogmatism, over abstraction, and restlessness, okay? So this is how we see how the nodes are taking effect in the world we live in. Cancer is emotional nourishment and family belonging, while Capricorn is rigidity, excessive ambition, emotional coldness. Leo is creative self-expression and heart-centered risk, while Aquarius is intellectual detachment and collective over the self. Virgo is discernment and embodied service. And Rahu in Virgo, discernment, embodied service. Ketu in Pisces, dissolution, escapism, martyrdom. Okay? So we see the pattern here. Now we see Libra, Rahu and Libra. It's partnership, relational wisdom. Meanwhile, Ketu and Aries brings selfishness, impulsivity, and initiatory compulsion. Scorpio, depth and transformative engagement. Taurus, possessiveness, sensory comfort, resistance to change. So every zodiacal sign has a negative aspect here in some format or another. Sagittarius, philosophical vision and higher meaning, while Gemini, superficiality, nervous dispersion, and over-intellectualizing. Capricorn is disciplined achievement and mature authority, meanwhile Cancer is emotional enmeshment, maternal regression, and moodiness. Aquarius is collective contribution and humanitarian vision, while Leo is narcissism, a need for applause and ego inflation. The God complex, looks maxing is all Leo. Pisces is mystical surrender and compassionate unity, while Virgo is perfectionism, hypercriticism, and body-mind split. So now we've just observed the 12 nodal axes configurations. All right, constructive interference directions, north node evolutionary themes, and decoherence release patterns, south node shadow tendencies. Okay, so each pair constitutes a quantum complementarity, in the Bohr sense. The full truth requires both axes, not the illumination of either. Okay, so that's the chapter 8. We're going to talk about consciousness, aura theory, and the astrological observer effect. So it looks like talking about quite a few things, like microtubules, quantum gravity, and the role of the observing psyche. So we have the hard problem, giggity, and its quantum dimension. So David Chalmers' hard problem of consciousness designates the explanatory gap between objective physical descriptions of neural processes and the subjective qualitative character of experience. So we have the redness of red, the painfulness of pain, the what it is likeness of tasting chocolate. No amount of detailed neuroscientific description of action potentials, neurotransmitters, and cortical connectivity maps seems to explain why there is subjective experience at all. So, quantum theories of consciousness propose that the irreducible subjectivity of experience is connected to quantum level processes in the brain. Processes that, in some versions, invoke quantum gravity and the objective collapse of the wave function as the physical substrate of conscious moments. So, onto Penrose-Hameroff orchestrated objective reduction, also known as OR. So Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff's orchestrated objective reduction, or OR theory, proposes that consciousness arises from quantum computations occurring in microtubules, protein polymers that form the cytoskeleton of neurons and other cells. Microtubule subunits, A and B tubulin dimers, are proposed to undergo quantum superposition of conformational states, with the collapse objective reduction, OR, of these superpositions generating discrete conscious moments. Crucially, Penrose proposes that this objective reduction is governed by quantum gravity, specifically by the threshold at which a quantum superposition of mass distributions produces a gravitational self-energy exceeding the threshold for Planck scale geometry to distinguish the states. And we have our formula, which essentially shows our Penrose OR timescale. We see T is the time to objective reduction, E_G is the gravitational self-energy of the quantum superposition, G is Newton's constant, while M is the mass of the superposed system, D is the spatial displacement between superposed mass configurations. So, this is perfect. Why is it perfect? Because we see all the science, we see all the math, and we're able to add it up like it's nothing. But it is something. We'll add it up like it is something massive, actually. I just underestimated my own potential. I'm tired of doing that, so you will see me get more cocky and just more like a Taurus rising, honestly. Like, I don't care about your feelings, dude, honestly. Unless you care about mine. There's just really, I'm sorry, like, I'm getting more tired of seeing the shit that I'm seeing in this world. So for microtubule superpositions, Penrose and Hameroff calculate timescales ranging from milliseconds to tens of milliseconds. Okay? Consistent with the EEG frequencies of conscious processing, a gamma band, 30 through 90 Hz or Hertz, each OR event produces a discrete conscious moment with a specific phenomenological content. Okay? If anyone wants to do the research and figure out how long humans have been looking into black holes, astrophysics, stellar dialectics, quantum dialectics, be my guest. There's a bunch of physics majors, that say they know a lot, but really don't, because their college only taught them what, of course, the college material wanted them to know. But the fact of the matter is, there is no School of Astrology in the United States of America. There is no Master of Astrology degree in the state of Minnesota, in the country that we're living in. I'd have to go all the way to the UK just to get a fucking diploma in what I actually want to learn about. So that's where we're at. But I want to talk about the astrological observer effect and what that even looks like. So before I get really started, we know about the observer effect in general. I would hope you've heard of this. Cut out the word astrological, just the observer effect. It's almost like maybe astrology is too good to be true for some scientists or something, that we still don't have, a proper schooling here for this matter. But it feels so unique in the sense that astrology is in everything we touch, everything we do, everything we hear and feel. It is astrology, in my opinion. And this is not a religion. This is a fact based on science and data of research for a millennium. So this is not bullshit. This is not something we're pulling out of our asses that AI can come up with out of its ass. No, this is based off of millenniums, eras of science and research and integrating every single fucking detail. So it pisses me off when people will sit there and say, astrology goes against my religion. Well, you need to look into that. Seriously. Why can't you incorporate this into your religion? What is the matter with it? Why are you so against learning something that actually would serve you to know as a human being? But like I said, some people just want to, live in la la land. So in standard quantum mechanics, what do we know? The act of observation affects the observed system. So measurement collapses the wave function. And we know the astrological observer effect inverts this relationship. The cosmic field configuration at the natal moment shapes the structure of the observer's consciousness. The turbulent quantum state's preferred bases for collapse. Isn't it so interesting? Under ORC-OR, each microtubule OR event selects from the quantum superposition according to a gravitationally defined objective criterion. We propose that the natal astrological field couples to the microtubule quantum states through a low-energy gravitational modulation, influencing the orchestration, the preconscious quantum computation that determines which possible OR collapse will occur. What will we see? An orchestrated Hamiltonian. Okay? Our H underscore tubule is a tubular quantum Hamiltonian, while our H underscore neural encodes large-scale neural orchestration. E is the natal coupling constant. RT underscore birth is the natal astrological field, and J underscore micro is the microtubule coupling operator. So ORC-OR remains a minority position in consciousness science. Principal objections include biological environments are warm, wet, noisy. Standard decoherence timescales at physiological temperatures are 10 to the negative power 13 as far shorter than the millisecond scale coherence required by ORC-OR. Also, no specific evidence links microtubule quantum states to consciousness empirically. Defenders argue that biological systems may exploit quantum error correction mechanisms, analogous to topological qubits, and that quantum coherence in photosynthesis, avian magnetoreception, and olfaction demonstrates that evolution can maintain quantum effects in warm biological environments. So The quantum astrological coupling proposed in equation 8.2 requires independently establishing both OR and the existence of a doubly speculative positioning knowledge as such. Okay? Also, when we finish this video up, because I only have a few pages left, I'm going to show you something even more brilliant. You're gonna love this. Might save it for its own video, but the natal unconscious as Hilbert space. So Jung described the unconscious as everything of which I know, but of which I am not at the moment thinking, everything of which I was once conscious but have now forgotten, everything perceived by my senses but not noted by my conscious mind, everything which involuntarily and without paying attention to it, I feel, think, remember, want, and do, all the future things that are taking shape in me and will sometime come to consciousness. This description maps with remarkable precision onto the quantum state vector in Hilbert space, all possible states of the system, many not manifest in current observable outcomes, but present as probability amplitudes, shaping the distribution of future measurement results. The natal chart provides the initial conditions of this Hilbert space, the probability amplitude distribution from which conscious experience and biography will emerge through successive measurement transit events. And we see a psychic quantum state wherein our energy eigenstates of the psychic Hamiltonian corresponding to archetypal complexes, while C_NT are time evolving amplitudes, and the phase factor generates the temporal dynamics observed as psychological development and the activation of complexes by transits. Toward a unified field theory of astrological influence, we're going to go into Bohm's implicate order, the holographic principle, and the grand synthesis. First, we're going to start with Bohm's implicate order in the natal hologram. So, David Bohm's ontological interpretation of quantum mechanics proposes that observable physical reality, the explicate order, is an unfolding of a deeper, non-local, non-manifest reality. The implicate order. Okay? Analogous to the way a three-dimensional image is unfolded throughout a holographic plate. At the implicate level, all apparently separated points in space and time are deeply interconnected. What appears as local classical reality is merely the locally unfolded surface of this universal implicate field. The mathematical structure Bohm employs is the quantum potential Q, an additional term in the guidance equation for particle trajectories that encodes the non-local information of the entire wave function. Okay? So, Bohmian quantum potential, where R equals is the amplitude of the wave function. We have our Laplacian, m is particle mass, q is non-local. Its value at any point depends on the entire wave function configuration. In the quantum astrological interpretation, the natal chart corresponds to a specific configuration of the implicate order, a holographic seed from which the biographical explicit order unfolds. The natal chart does not determine events mechanically. It provides the implicate template whose progressive unfolding generates characteristic patterns at the explicit level as planetary transits activate different regions of the implicate hologram. Okay? Now we have the holographic principle and the birth chart as a cosmic record. So we have the holographic principle originating in the work of T. Hooft and Susskind and given precise mathematical form by the Maldacena ADS CFT correspondence. States that the information content of a volume of space-time is fully encoded on its bounding surface. A reduction of dimensionality by 1. So, maximum information content as a natural unit of a region with boundary area. We have our Planck length, and the holographic bound shows information capacity scales with surface area, not volume. Applied to astrological theory, the celestial sphere, the two-dimensional surface on which the ecliptic, zodiacal signs, and planetary positions are projected, may constitute the holographic boundary encoding the information of the entire solar system's quantum field state. The birth chart as a record of the instantaneous configuration of this holographic surface encodes the complete information of the natal quantum state within a two-dimensional structure. We have our unified astrological field equation. Drawing together the theoretical threads of the preceding chapters, we propose the following unified field equation for the astrological field. Now, when I say we have or I have, I mean, I used the prompt in the AI, and AI basically made it for me. Did I help it make it? Yes. But did it come up with everything in the technical and actually give the document? Yes. But it needed a start point. So that's where we're going to see issues with AI, is that people may or may not be getting in trouble, because when you use AI to help you come up with something cool, like let's say a textbook, you have to credit the AI and pretty much everything that goes with that. And I'm not totally sure what the logistics are. I know that I have it in my bio. Every single video I've made is incorporating the usage of AI, just because I want to be safe about my life and my sanity. So we have our unified astrological field equation. We see our D'Alembert operator, our wave equation in 4D spacetime, as well as our scalar astrological field, our effective field mass, related to the characteristic scale of astrological influence. We have our coupling constant, planetary source strengths, four-dimensional Dirac delta functions localizing each planet I at its world line, and we have the biological coupling current, the density of living nervous systems at spacetime point X. This equation has the form of the massive Klein-Gordon equation with moving point sources. Its solutions, the field, are retarded Green's functions propagating outward from each planetary source at speed c, modulated by the effective mass term and coupling to biological systems through J-bio. The time-varying positions of planets produce a continuously evolving astrological field landscape. I think we complete. Actually, okay. So we have references I wanted to talk about really quick. Specifically, like sectioned out references, which AI helped a lot with. As we can see on screen, we can see where it got all its information from. Like all of this is its physics and quantum mechanics resources, references, as well as astrophysics and nucleosynthesis references, as well as consciousness and quantum biology references, astrological and archaeological scholarship references, as well as plasma physics and electric universe references. So we have a bibliography here, and you guys, there's a link in the description to this entire document. Proposed research programs, quantum biology and astrological timing, which is huge. The most immediately testable prediction of the quantum astrological framework concerns biological quantum coherence. If the natal astrological field influences microtubule quantum states, then statistically significant differences in early neural quantum coherence properties should be detectable between individuals born with different planetary configurations. Quantum xenospectroscopy of neuronal microtubules at birth offers a potential experimental test. Statistical reanalysis of historical astrological data. The quantum astrological framework generates specific predictions about the statistical structure of planetary effects. They should exhibit interference patterns, sinusoidal variation with aspect angle, rather than simple linear correlations. Reanalysis of large biographical databases, Guaquilin dataset, AstroDataBank, with quantum interference models rather than classical statistical tests, constitutes a tractable near-term research program. Gravitational wave astronomy and planetary aspects. The LIGO, Virgo, KAGRA gravitational wave observatories are sufficiently sensitive to detect the gravitational wave background from the solar system's planetary configuration. Future space-based detectors, like the LISA, will map the low-frequency gravitational wave landscape of the inner solar system with unprecedented precision. Cross-correlating this gravitational wave map with astrological aspect configurations could reveal physical correlates of the proposed planetary field interactions. Toward a field synthesis. The synthesis proposed in this textbook rests on 4 convergent claims. See, the first is stellar ancestry. The physical matter of the human body and brain was synthesized in and dispersed by stars. The connection between the cosmos and humanity is not symbolic but literal at the nuclear level. Quantum field non-locality. The physical universe operates through non-local quantum field correlations that cannot be reduced to classical mechanical causation. Planetary influence need not operate through Newtonian gravity to be physically coherent. Natal decoherence. The birth moment represents a specific quantum decoherence event in which the natal astrological field configuration is encoded in the individual's dispositional quantum state, a holographic imprint that organizes the probability amplitude distribution for subsequent life events. And archetypal resonance. The planetary archetypes correspond to stable attractor states of the quantum morphic field, carrying the accumulated resonance of all previous human encounters with each archetypal configuration, accessible through the structural coupling of the natal quantum state with the planetary field at each transit. None of these claims individually requires the abandonment of established science. Their synthesis into a coherent quantum astrological theory, however, requires exactly the kind of cross-disciplinary courage that the history of science repeatedly shows is necessary before paradigm transformation. The willingness to take seriously, as Einstein took seriously, the equivalence principle, a correlation too consistent to be dismissed as coincidence, and too precise to be explained by existing theory. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. He kind of had a fact here. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, and that is life. It is the source of all true art and science. And now we have our Appendix A for mathematical notation and symbol reference. And that's when we go into our bibliography and we complete. So complete mathematical symbol reference for all equations in this textbook, which is, in my opinion, amazing. We see our symbol, so we'll just say our SYM, and we see what that means. So we're saying our mathematical notations. So we see this symbol is our reduced Planck constant. This is our Ket vector, our state vector, complete quantum state in Hilbert space. Our Bra vector, dual of Ket, inner product, probability amplitude for state A given state B, transition probability, Born rule, probability of measuring A given state B, Hamiltonian operator, it's a total energy operator, generates time evolution. I just want you guys to see. I'm talking about a whole lot. So we have a density matrix, statistical description of mixed quantum states, the D'Alembertian, the wave operator, Laplacian spatial second derivative, Dirac delta 4D, space-time point localization function, exceptional Lie algebras, simple Lie algebras with no classical analog, our astrological field, proposed scalar quantum field of astrological influence, our Planck length, meaning to say M subtracting quantum gravity scale, or we get our quantum gravity scale. So we also have gravitational self-energy, energy of mass and quantum superposition, Penrose, biological coupling current, density of nervous systems coupling to the ASD, morphic resonance operator, accumulated archetypal pattern field, and Feynman propagator, our path integral amplitude from state A to state B. Alright, in my next video with peace and love, we are going to talk about quite a bit. It looks like we're going to talk about, let me see here. I really want to get into this new thing I want to get into. Said that twice. Alright, we'll figure it out in the next video, honestly. I have a lot of ideas. I think we're going to go over this textbook next. My medical astrology textbook we got help with. Claude, Anthropic AI. I'll see you in the next one with peace and love. Piscean out.